Do you remember Nico Garden, the Chop Suey House, or Snow White Laundry and Cleaners? In this edition, you'll meet the Kimuras, an Anchorage pioneer family. Hello, this is Mike of Anchorage Memories. Our story begins one afternoon, long ago. Somewhere between the newsreel and the main movie, I sat there, a young boy, in the 4th Avenue Theater in downtown Anchorage, when an ad filled the screen. The first thing I noticed was that it was for a local Anchorage business. I had heard the name Snow White Laundry and Cleaners many times before, but knew nothing about them. I became fascinated as I watched their movie theater ad. Snow White Laundry and Cleaners got its humble start back in the days when Anchorage was just a tent city. It was muddy, crude, and only there because of the Alaska Railroad. Welcome to Anchorage, Alaska around 1914, 1915, and 1916. It was simply a tent city that sprang up around the mouth of Ship Creek. Harry Kimura and his wife Katsuki moved from Seattle to what was then Anchorage and took over a small hand laundry from a relative and gave it the name H&K Hand Laundry. It was located near 5th Avenue and C Street. And by the way, there was no running water in Anchorage. Then, as if he didn't have enough to do, Harry opened the Chop Suey House in a small building next to the laundry. The Kimura family grew to include Sam, who went on to become a professional photographer and taught at the University of Alaska Anchorage for 23 years, his wife Joan, an Anchorage artist who designed the seal for the city of Anchorage, William, Bill Kimura, who became a painter, sculptor, and teacher, and George, who ran Kimura restaurants like the Golden Pheasant Cafe and Nico Garden. In 1941, Harry Kimura was locked in a barracks at Anchorage's Fort Richardson as part of America's wartime internment program. During that time, his son George was in basic training and was given MP duty outside that same detention center. At some point, the Kimuras left Anchorage. Following World War II, the Kimuras returned to Anchorage and expanded their H&K Hand Laundry into Snow White Laundry and Cleaners. Along the way, they also opened a restaurant called the Golden Pheasant Cafe on D Street between 4th and 5th Avenues. Opened in 1966 and located on Spenard Road near Spenard Lake, Nico Garden was Anchorage's finest Oriental restaurant. It quickly became the place to go in Anchorage. And here's a special note, by the way. For many years, my wife Mary and I celebrated our wedding anniversary with dinner in one of those memorable private rooms in Nico Garden. Today, that restaurant location is but a fond memory for so many Alaskans. In 1979, Nico Garden burned down. I was a news videographer for KTVA at the time, and following the fire, I was assigned to go inside and shoot video of the charred remains. I can still remember the strange, tragic sight of the pond that ran the length of the restaurant. It was covered with black soot, and burnt debris was floating in the once beautiful water. Now, even though it's gone, we will always have the wonderful memories of that fine Kimura restaurant. Anchorage Memories did a story about Gwenny's old Alaskan restaurant in Spenard. Gwenny told us that when her and her mother first came to Anchorage, they rented an apartment from the Kimura family and got to know them. Now here are some comments from our North Stars. By the way, that's you. Juanita sent us this comment. I've learned a lot about my hometown, and you've jogged memories of things I haven't thought about for years. I can only say, yay. And Diana had this to say, well done, and thank you for your trip down memory lane. And Patty shared this memory. I remember going to the movies as a kid at the old 4th Avenue Theater. You could watch a movie for a cereal box top and 10 to 25 cents on Saturdays. Thank you very much for those wonderful comments. This is Mike of Anchorage Memories, and you can visit us and hear more stories and see photographs and see videos just by visiting anchoragememories.com.